Hi, I'm Christopher Dwoski, and today I'm going to talk to you about open source curriculum and how this implementation at District 197 is going to help benefit the students. So, why open source? That's a big question. First of all, it's cost savings. So, open source materials are free, they're readily available to adapt. They're created with the explicit intent to allow other educators to get material for free and break down the barriers that exist with print and published textbooks that are for cost. So publishers are moving to a subscription service anyways. It's the future of textbooks. What that's going to look like in the future, I'm not entirely sure. But it does look more and more like schools are going to be kind of stuck with a subscription model for name brand publishers that publishers could adjust those prices at any time. So another thing is that they offer different perspectives. So if you use 2 or 3 different open source textbooks, it costs the district nothing. Whereas you can't just go out and buy 2 different sets of textbooks. There's not typically funding available for that. So where the issue exists is like California and Texas have 2 different textbooks, and when you examine it, depending on who it's marketed towards, the information is portrayed differently. It's got 2 different stories. Well, with open source textbooks, you can ethically control part of that narrative and allow students to see, hey, there's this side here and there's a side on the opposite side, and have them critically analyze it and kind of use their synthesizing skills. So it also allows teachers to blend sources, increases teacher ownership because they're the ones putting it together. It's flexible, so curriculum is not stuck to the textbook schedule. Teachers can deviate, they can pull in digital resources. There's a whole lot they can do, especially when you loop in the content management systems that a lot of schools have in place, especially our district, who is on Canvas. So last big thing would be it's a single location. You have it on your tablet, you have it on your device. It's an ebook. There's no need for heavy backpacks. There's less of a need to have lockers. So it really removes a lot of stuff that we've grown to know and have accustomed to in the school setting. That imagine a world without having to bring in backpacks with you every day. It eliminates some steps throughout the day. So our demographics, this is not the specific important information on it. This just breaks it down racially. What's more important is that we're on 38% free and reduced lunch, 51% are proficient in math. So about half of my students are not proficient in math, and 62% are proficient in reading, which means there's more than a third that are not proficient in reading. Part of this is there's a very large special education population, a very large ELL base, and there's also a very large underserved minority group of students. They're both underserved and they're underprivileged, and these devices and open source textbooks will help in 2 ways. It helps them see different perspectives and receive a different narrative than they'd otherwise get, and it also helps them have those devices where currently we're a BYOD program. Students need to bring their own device. There's an equity issue. Currently we have a combination of Chromebooks, MacBooks, PC laptops, and none of them are consistent. It's kind of a nightmare and a headache for not just teachers but students to try to learn on 3 different sets of devices. They have their one, but other students that they're looking at have a different one. It's really a mess. But the one thing that ties it all together is that all schools do use Canvas LMS. So we're all on the same learning management platform. So I examined 2 different technology options. We currently have the iPad Air at the middle school level, and I examined the Samsung Galaxy Tab A. And then there were 3 different textbook models I took a look at. So it's kind of keeping the current model and then changing to a brand name publisher ebook instead. So it's still publisher brand, but it's their subscription service. There's adopting a specific open source curriculum or blending open sources and creating new. So staff would actually be creating a lot of the content themselves and possibly collaborating with other districts. So devices, the iPad Air, it's easy to use, offers Apple Care. It's more expensive though. It's not customizable. You can't expand the memory. You're restricted to the App Store. Samsung Galaxy Tab A being substantially cheaper, you're allowed to customize a lot of settings. It gives the district way more latitude to be able to do more things with those devices and grow with them. Especially since the memory is expandable and it's possible to buy parts from, whereas Apple currently restricts who can service them, who gets parts. Samsung does not. You could buy spare parts from an OEM manufacturer on Amazon and do a lot of those repairs in-house. Only downside is it's not as intuitive for students. Textbooks, brand publisher, largely there's no advantage to it. What I found was that open source and faculty created, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, are really the way to go with it. So it's not one or the other. I think it's a blend of both that would best serve the district. Now, how much does this cost? Overall, it's going to be about $1.5 million. It's the initial startup investment. So broken down, this is how much it's going to cost for staff development. It's going to be about $800,000, which is more than half of the cost of it. A lot of this is that one-time startup fee to make sure that teachers are on board with the curriculum and that they have their stuff prepared. Now, technology and devices, this again, front-loading initial technology startups for grades 3 through 8, so the high schoolers are not getting it right away. Pilot program will cost $95,000, and then once this has been started up, it'll only cost the district $95,000 each year, rather than the over $300,000 it would cost otherwise for textbooks and updating that. So there will be a savings, a very large savings actually, over the course of its lifetime. It's just the first couple of years will take a little bit of time to have that be seen. So staff development, first year recruiting for the pilot program. Second year is having that program piloted, getting feedback, having staff start to consider what they're going to use. The year following that, so 2022, 2023, the program goes live to teachers and students. All teachers will begin with their instructional material, and then feedback will be given in a loop so that the last year there's a revision made to it. It's a robust program. Things that hadn't been thought through or things that were not foreseen are revised to make the best plan possible before going to a 2-year revision cycle and making smaller updates.